we don't want to hire robots, we want to hire people. It's very obvious. There are certain phrases that you can spot them a mile off, right? And believe me, if you're talking to an HR manager or a hiring manager, they will spot them a mile off.
I'm pretty sure.
So anything that you can do to make yourself more. How do you stand out when everybody's trying to do the same thing?
Yeah.
That's really important. That's super valuable. And it's the same when we're talking about sort of hiring people into businesses. You need to have.
Welcome to a new episode of Business Meets Life, and hello from Sydney. Sam, welcome back. I know you are British, but you just went to Mallorca. You're originally from Manchester, right? Is it stupid to ask whether you're a Manchester United fan?
Not a stupid question, but I'm not actually.
What? How is it possible?
So I'm actually originally from a small county called Lincolnshire. It's very flat, very boring, farming county in the east of England. I'm actually a Leeds fan. So I went to uni in Leeds, did architecture, worked in the hospitality scene whilst I was there. That helped to fund my university studies and made some great friends doing so. And then moved to Manchester for career prospects, eventually sort of moved into sales, started in the sort of market research, kind of technology data type spaces and sort of joined some businesses at some really interesting times. And, more recently, sort of, coming up to just over 4.5 years ago, obviously joined Viper. So, it's been a great sort of 10, 15 years.
Wow, that's exciting. So the power of podcasting, guys, as I love to say, actually, Sam Gilding was only introduced to me by a common friend, Matt, who was on a podcast recently. So thank you to Matt that I can get to meet amazing Sam. Tell me a little bit more about what Viper actually does and how they have grown so fast over the last couple of years.
So Viper helps businesses to understand more about its product, about its consumer, about its shopper. The reason it's growing really quickly, it's a great question, ultimately comes down to providing brands, retailers, customers of ours with the means and the apparatus to do research faster, more effectively, cheaper and more precisely than traditional research. So in a world where everybody's wanting to move quicker, what used to take months, weeks, now can be done in days, weeks and minutes. It's the sort of thing that is already being adopted in other areas of kind of life. And sort of market research really is just the next logical step for that from our perspective.
And this is what you call product intelligence, because I didn't exactly know what it actually meant.
It's a good question. So I guess if we sort of zoom out, we've got, let's call it the market research landscape. And within that, I guess consumer insights is the bit that we're in, right? So very specific insights driven by consumers about products, about offers, about brands. Now, the difference and the comparison that I would draw with consumer insights, it's in that space, but it's not the same. Consumer insights is one thing that you find out about a topic. A person has red hair, they like chocolate, they like whatever, right? You get product intelligence where you begin to synthesize those insights together and you're able to make decisions. So the way I always kind of think about it is you sort of got that raw material of data, which is clearly today's oil, right? Crunching that together, you start to kind of have a view and do we go left, do we go right? That's kind of your insights. You start to be able to make big decisions on stuff. You need intelligence, right? So what Viper is really doing is helping brands to move much further along that journey from data to insight to intelligence, ultimately to then correct action, which is kind of the end game, right? And I guess what we're seeing at the moment is through technology, you're just able to do that so much faster than you were, so much faster.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of AI as well.
For sure.
I would love to know a little bit more about your upbringing, how you were raised, because you have so much achieved. You've worked in a lot of different industries. Hospitality is just one of the many that I would not have even guessed now. You come mainly from marketing, sales background. Now you are a chief revenue officer. You've doubled, tripled revenues many times. You've built teams and people. How did you get there? And how was your upbringing?
So, how's my upbringing? So, yeah, kind of family of 4, got a younger brother. School for me was a grammar school, public grammar school. I'd always knew that I wanted to go to university. I didn't really know why. I was always interested in art and Lego.
Interesting.
So,
that's why architecture?
Exactly. So I think I did, what did I do? Maths, physics, art, and graphics, right? So kind of a combination of the practical and the creative. I think that's always been where I've kind of operated. And I kind of went to university and started an architecture degree, finished an architecture degree. But while I was there, a lot of people in the architecture, or in my class, shall we say, my course, religiously dedicate themselves to that. Now, let's just say that I missed a few lectures now and again. And that was for things that you do at uni, right? So socializing, making friends, and in my instance, working. Now, I was in a fortunate position where I was able to move into the bar industry whilst I was at university. And I say that absolutely definitively, because if there's something you can do as, whilst you're in academic studies that kind of gives you cash, it gives you people experience. And I kind of want to underline that, because I think that is one thing that maybe we're starting to see a little bit less of. Learning how to talk to people, learning how to deal with difficult situations, potentially sometimes quite aggressive situations and confrontation. I went through my kind of career at university, really enjoying working in hospitality and actually ended up sort of moving into sort of some senior bar manager type positions. I knew at that point that I did want to get out of the bar scene a little bit. I'd sort of done it for 5 or 6 years, much like we were talking about earlier in terms of your own sort of experiences more recently. And so moved over to Manchester. I was in Leeds. That's where I did my studies, and progressed a career in sales. And I think as many people do, particularly in the UK, I don't think sales is revered in the same way in the UK that it is in other parts of Europe.
Oh, please elaborate this.
So I know that in some parts of the Nordics, parts of sort of Northern Europe, sales is seen as more of a professional vocation. In the UK, it's not, right? So I think my experience in my early sales career was that if you met somebody on the street and you told them you were in sales, you would not be seen as a second-class citizen, but you would get a sort of an eye roll of, oh, right, you're in sales, that kind of thing.
Really?
Actually, sales is quite hard, right? You've got to assemble very basic information, form hypotheses ultra fast, be able to react instantly to curveballs. That's not easy to do. But anyway, so I kind of took a career in sales at the time and sort of moved through the ranks.
That's interesting. I mean, I think most of us, again, I'm German. Many people think I'm American, but
You've got a very interesting accent, I have to say.
Some people nowadays say I'm Irish. I don't know
really?
where this is coming from. So yeah, I think like on TV, we usually see a lot of like what sales looks like, the American style, right?
Yeah.
And now we're like in Australia, like there's the tall poppy syndrome. And I remember when I was a child, my stepdad, he always said, don't put yourself in the center of attention. And I think if we think of salespeople, very often they're like big aura, center of attention, can really good talk, something like that.
I think you might be right. I mean, in my head, I don't know if you've ever seen or read the book or seen the film actually, but when I was growing up, the salesperson was Matilda Wormwood's dad, from the Roald Dahl book, Matilda.
Oh.
And he was a car salesman, greasy hair, really, difficult, lied a lot, all this kind of thing. And I think actually kind of maybe gave sales a little bit of a bad name. Because if I look at salespeople that I know and I've recruited and I've trained over the last sort of 15 years, they don't have any of those characteristics. They're typically hungry, energetic, super smart people that look at sales as a legitimate career path. And the thing I think that most of those individuals have in common is that they're in control of their own destiny. If they're good at sales, they can earn huge amounts of money. That's
exactly the point. So when I started my own company 7 years ago, I've been an account manager at HP, but in corporate, it's a little bit different. So then, basically, like when I started, I put more the focus on marketing instead of sales. And in China, things are done very differently. And training and coaching and consulting is still a little bit of a different field. So I didn't put enough effort on hiring that local salesperson from China to help me with the relationships. And on Friday, I gave a speech here to a sales team. And to be honest, I was like, some of them are 18, 20 years. Like an 18-year-old just kicked everyone's butt. And I was like, you're doing exactly the right thing, that no matter like what's happening to you in life, you will always be fine, even in an economic crisis, right?
100%.
So I'd love to know, like, what are your secrets on how you have built the highest performing sales teams or teams in general? Because you have always worked very closely with people.
Yeah, I think, so from my perspective, I think you need to be really clear about what you're looking for. So if I try and approach this from a hiring manager perspective, but also from a candidate perspective, I think, maybe we'll do candidate perspective first. I think it's really important that you're authentic. You've got to show, if you haven't got much experience, the natural attributes that you have. So energy, drive, being precise, being able to hold a conversation with people. These are all things that, you're going to build up your life experience around. They're not necessarily taught to you at school. You can be intelligent without being smart. And I think, if I think about it from a candidate perspective, what I would be looking for is a little bit of both. I kind of like the fact that your university degree or your background tells me that you can not necessarily, because sales isn't it's a vocation, it's not a degree, right? So what it shows me is that you can commit to something. So you went to university. I don't actually really care what you did, but you commit to something.
Like you come from architecture.
And architecture and bars, right? And you've done some market research stuff. And
you have tattoos even.
Yeah, and I've got some that I can show you and some that I can't. But I think it's life experience, isn't it, ultimately? We don't want to hire robots. We want to hire people. And ultimately, when you're standing in front of somebody thinking, is this person going to be the right for my team? You've got to feel that you can go for a beer with them. You're going to be able to socialize. They're going to bring something to the group that already adds to the talent density that you've built up, right? They're authentic. They're a real individual. I sometimes worry, we were talking about AI before, you wouldn't believe the amount of CVs I've had. I'm like, you look really great on LinkedIn. We had a conversation and then you sent me something. Now, I know you've written that in ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, all of that, quite excitement that I had about Whitney, I'm kind of thinking, you've actually diluted yourself a little bit now. You've kind of, there are great applications for it, and there's some that aren't as good. And that's probably one that I would say isn't quite right.
So are you nowadays saying that if people are now applying for jobs, they should not write their motivation letter and create their CV with the help of AI?
I think it comes down to the extent that you use it and how confident you are about writing yourself.
And how good you're probably in prompting.
Yeah, exactly. And how good you are at prompting. Great point. I think, I think that when you use AI to create, for instance, a response to a job, a letter or a job interview, it's very obvious. There are certain phrases that, you can spot them a mile off, right? And believe me, if you're talking to an HR manager or a hiring manager, they will spot them a mile off.
I'm pretty sure.
So anything that you can do to, make yourself more authentic, make yourself more real. How do you stand out when everybody's trying to do the same thing?
Yeah.
That's really important. And it's, and I guess that's sort of, I guess to a little bit, taking it back to the Viper story, we use AI a lot in our technology, in terms of finding the needle in the haystack, getting to the so what really quickly, the quality aspect of what we do. We're still real people, right? And I think if everybody else is moving into a world of synthetic data, and digital clones, another way to say those words, by the way, would be not real people. Actually, if you've got real people, that's super valuable. And it's the same when we're talking about sort of, hiring people into businesses. You need to have that authentic, real human edge.
Absolutely. Now, I'm wondering, talking about authenticity, what has been one of your biggest failures in your private or work life before?
Okay, right. So here's a good one. So I think you gestured towards it a minute ago. You said something like salespeople, big characters, center of attention, extroverts. I think that's true, or it's mainly true. I would probably describe myself as an extrovert pragmatist.
Yeah.
But not all salespeople fit in all of those boxes, right?
Yeah, sure.
And, I would say that there's loads of aspects I like about sales. I love the relationship building. I love the problem solving. I love the presenting. Probably the bit weirdly that I actually enjoy the least is public speaking, stuff like this. Right?
That's the biggest fear. Public speaking is one of the people's biggest fears.
So I can remember, honestly, this still haunts me now. So I can remember joining my first sales job and things were going really well. It was an inside sales role. We did a couple of face-to-face meetings and I was working with a very large blue chip IT business. And the relationship was going really well. It was going so well, actually, that they invited me to join one of their internal calls. Right. And on that call was, it was an hour meeting with all of the most senior people from that business from around the world. Right. Bearing in mind, I got a great relationship with this individual. And we worked together for like 2 or 4 years. But just getting all of those people together in a room and having, right, can you tell all these people what you've done for us in 15 minutes? Effectively, can you open up that sales conversation on a global relationship basis with all of these people? There's maybe 40 or 50 execs from different countries in the world. I remember kind of getting on there and I just went, you kind of get that freeze for a minute. And I just thought, like, this hasn't really happened to me before, but now I'm kind of feeling a bit under pressure, a bit anxious.
And how did you get out of this? What did you do? Or it became worse?
It became worse for about 2 or 3 seconds. That 2 or 3 seconds felt like about 10 minutes. You can feel it. It's sort of you get like a little dry mouth, and then you're kind of thinking, oh God, if I speak now, am I just going to struggle? And this is completely natural, by the way. There'll be loads of people that are in sales jobs and will think that's just them. No, it isn't. There's only probably a really small group of people, the salespeople, who actually really love public speaking. It has to be developed and trained in the same way that you train any other skill. Right. So back to the story. And the first and I just had to kind of go to the drink of water, and it was fine. Okay. But for that first part of the conversation, we've all felt it, right? All eyes are on you. You're on the microphone. Don't mess it up. This is a one, and you kind of, it does get to you. And I think the more my advice in those situations is the more and more you can throw yourself into that like slightly uncomfortable position.
Yeah.
That's your training to make sure that the next time you're just better.
Which again is a beautiful example. Like every successful person I've been speaking with, interviewing, or like the majority of them would always say that.
Yeah.
You got to get out of your comfort zone. Get comfortable in the uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. You push your limits. You gotta push your boundaries. And if it feels uncomfortable, you're probably growing.
Yeah. And you also wrote this a little bit on your LinkedIn profile, actually, right? Now, I'm wondering, out of the mentors, coaches, people you were able to learn from, what has been the best advice you've ever received that you wish you had at an earlier stage in your life?
Okay, so I can think there's a couple of people that I would look at. My first sales director, great advice around not over intellectualizing things. So, and I'll kind of give you a real example. So I remember in my kind of earlier sales career, I used to think that in technology sales, you should try and use the big words all the time. Management speak. Let's do this. And it's like, people just look at it and you think, what? Why are you talking like that? That's not how. And so probably one of the big lessons that I wish I'd learned earlier was just be normal, be real, right? If you know the word for something and you know that other person knows that word, don't use a word that makes you sound really pompous and, over intellectualizing just for the sake of it. It doesn't make you sound smart.
We often think so. When I work with students and I do some career development at some universities, for them it's often exactly like this as well.
Yeah.
At HP we call it bullshit bingo.
Yeah, Exactly. Bullshit bingo. I'll go with that. Yeah.
I love it. So when Matt introduced me to you, he was saying, "Oh, Sam, he's a chief revenue officer." I'm like, "Oh, that sounds fancy."
That's fancy,
I know like sales, head of sales. I know like CFOs.
Mm-hmm.
What does a chief revenue officer do?
So
what's the difference?
What's the difference? Good question. So I think there's a massive difference between finance. So chief revenue officer ultimately is responsible for the entire revenue operation. It's responsible for driving revenue, the growth. Now, I think if you look at a lot of corporate structures now, particularly in the West, you'll have head of sales, maybe then sales director, then CCO, chief commercial officer, or it could be chief revenue officer, or you could have both, right? So I think when I look at sort of CRO, if I think about my career, I've always sort of seen it as a bit of a ladder. You go through the layers of you're an AE, or sometimes, and what we do at Viper is we're trying to recruit earlier in that. So we're actually trying to recruit people who've never really done sales before. They're trying to be sales development reps and appointment bookers and things like that, and we develop them. But I guess there's sort of there's almost a ladder there that says SDRs into AEs or BDMs, depending on how you call them, which effectively, when I started, was called sales exec. But sales is unless you've got sales in the sales director or head of sales title, I think people like to avoid that now.
I see.
But CRO is ultimately the sort of the top rung on the ladder, I guess. And it's very different to finance. I mean, finance typically is about, making sure that we're not spending too much money, whereas
cutting costs.
Whereas revenue is all about kind of generating more money, I guess. So it's, we work very closely together, obviously, CRO, CFO at Viper.
Now, I've been wondering, looking at Viper, I mean, you are British. Viper is a British company, right? You just flew all the way from the other side of the world to come to Australia. And I assume from your LinkedIn, you're developing the market now. I remember that a lot of the Australians that I met here when I came here for business trips the last few months, they might have their companies, also tech and MarTech companies here, but very often their main clients are actually in the US, in the Middle East, in like Asia, right? Not like they have clients in Australia, but not so many. And now you're coming here. So what's your plan? How are you driving more revenues? And where does Australia fit in here?
So Australia is super exciting for us. We're at an interesting point in our journey where we've really started to dominate our home market of the UK, and we've been able to help customers do research, generate product intelligence.
Can you name a few of your customers?
Yeah, for sure. So lots of people that you would have heard of, right? So supermarkets, brands in supermarkets, coffee shops. So customers like Starbucks, customers like Marks and Spencer's, Heinz, lots of businesses that you would have heard of, Colgate, Palmolive, and some that you wouldn't, right? And I guess, why Australia? I guess, if I kind of put if I sort of zoom out, Australia's super interesting to us because, English language.
Right.
Some cultural similarities.
Right. A lot of British are here.
A lot of British in certain areas, yeah, for sure. But if I kind of put my sort of more kind of go-to-market hat on, I'd be saying, well, it's a market that actually spends a huge amount of money comparative to its population size on research. So globally, the kind of consumer insights market research world is about $137 billion. Now, the US is the biggest market by a mile, like 56% of the world's market research.
Yeah.
The UK is number 2. Australia is about 2.7, getting on towards 3 million. So it's not small, but it's small in comparison. However, when you flip that by population size, it becomes third. So market research spend per capita, Australia is the third highest. Now, what that says to me is there's a part of the world here where brands spend huge amounts of money finding out what that population wants from its products. Now, if you compare the population of the UK, I think UK is second, or US is first, right? So if I look at why are we interested in Australia, and you think about what does Viper do, it helps brands do research faster, better, more cost effectively. There's huge opportunity. We've already, the amount of conversations I've had with businesses in Australia already who have said, this is great. This is exactly the kind of thing we're looking for. We're wanting to go faster. Dare I say it, in some instances, we're often the last place in the world to get the shiny new technology, right? So all of this, I think there's a super smart group of individuals. The talent pool in Australia is excellent. Spend money on research, but for reasons that are, outside of my understanding and therefore are an opportunity to us, is there probably isn't the adoption of technology-driven research, MarTech type systems in Australia that there is definitely in the US, definitely in Europe. So we've chosen Australia first before the US because we think there's an appetite for change.
It's interesting you say that, because this morning I spoke to a partner of mine, and she's like in AI and other things like this. And she got so frustrated on how easy and open like Americans are to adjust to adopt to any kind of new technology. Yeah. Whereas then here she was saying, she is based in Australia. No, like it's sometimes like a struggle to convince them. Yeah. And they're so far behind in their websites, in their SEO, in like using the newest technology.
Yeah, I think that's right. But I think I prefer to look at it as a sort of an education opportunity. The businesses that we're talking to are very successful businesses now. Yeah. They're very successful doing it the way they've always done it, right? But unless you're unless there's external information that says, hey guys, that way you're doing it's not wrong. But by the way, the world's moved on a little bit. There's this other stuff now. You should probably have a look at that. Or by the way, here's all these other parts of the world in similar types of businesses who already adopted this, and this is what's happening to them.
Yeah, or your competitor.
Exactly. And I think, what I would say, I mean, I've literally just come from a meeting right now, from a very well-known biscuit manufacturer, actually. And that business is, in Australian terms, it's massive. It's a massive organization, but actually it's still thinking about, we should be adopting a bit more of this. We've been doing things this way. That's the sort of the famous saying, is that we always do it this way. I think if you stick to that religiously, the chances are at some point, if not already, you're going to start to be outpaced. People are going to go past you, because the way that we used to work 10 years ago, there's probably a slightly better way now. The way that it worked 15 years ago, 20 years ago, there's definitely a better way. And so, through the right types of conversations, the right type of content, I think you can, start to bring more education to those sorts.
Absolutely. Guys, if you enjoyed the conversation with Sam so far, please subscribe and share it to your friends. Highly appreciate it. Okay, so this was actually really good. I'm curious to see 6 months, 12 months from now how it's going for you, but I definitely have no doubt it's going to be good. So earlier I got a sneak peek of one of his many tattoos, which said, I think, family, right?
That's right, yeah.
So why did you choose that tattoo?
Well, it's probably not a surprise to you, but family's very important to me. So I'm married. I've got three children. Came from a really good family, where being together was really important. And I think it's sort of a bit of a reminder, I guess. A lot of the tattoos I have, to me, have specific meaning.
I like that.
And family for me is obviously the people that you'll have blood relations with, but it's also people that you would class in the sort of the broader extended circle. There are, I'm sure we can all relate, right? There's loads of people that, you spend a lot of time with, sometimes more than your actual family. And for me, that represents making sure that you're always connected with people. That's for me, thinking about all the way back into hospitality, some of the kind of key things that you learn is that kind of togetherness and and I think family is the best way to describe that.
Absolutely. I actually remember, because I work also with a lot of like 5-star hotels and train them. And I remember they said that a lot of people, because they live inside the hotel or close by, and I mean, hospitality is a tough job. You work late hours and on weekends. Many of them are getting divorced as well.
Really? Right.
Or sometimes they might find their partners then inside the same industry, because other friends might not really understand how it is to work in hospitality.
It's tough, right? And if I go back to that word a minute ago, it's togetherness. I think when you're in something on your own and you're working late nights, that's quite hard. Yeah. But as soon as you have 2 or 3 more people in the room, you then all of a sudden you're not alone, and you've got those same pains, those same gripes. You're kind of dealing with them all together. A difficult customer, you can kind of look over at the bar or whatever, and you make eye contact with them, and they kind of go, "Yeah, I've been there." And I think that just gives that helps you get through it. And I think everybody's dealing with stuff, aren't they? The kind of the facade that you kind of get is very rarely actually is the reality of what's happening behind the doors. But back to the word, I think as long as you've got people around you that you can trust, you can chat to, you're gonna get through it.
Definitely, I agree with this as well. So you've built a very demanding career in like leadership roles. You travel a lot, as it looks like.
Yeah.
How do you actually manage family? And you said you're a dad of 3 kids even. Like what brings you happiness in your private life, and how do you manage like work-life balance?
Okay.
Or maybe it's work-life integration. I'm not sure.
I think you have to be disciplined. So you have to know what you want. So for me, I think sometimes, particularly in the West, we fall into this habit of saying work-life balance, right? Thinking that they're mutually exclusive. There's quite a lot of people, myself included, actually quite like my job, actually quite like work. So for me, it does bring me some joy, because the inference of saying it in a work-life balance context is life is good, work is bad. We spend most of our life at work, right?
That's
So if you don't enjoy it, end of the job, right? You've got to enjoy what you do. But having said that, thinking about my own situation, you do have to be disciplined. So I'm working from the UK a lot of the time. I'm in Australia 2 or 3 times every 2 or 3 months. I'm up early before the kids are up. Then when the kids are up, I'll go and help with breakfast. I'll help get them ready for school. Certain days I'll take them to school, get home, log back in. So I'm very rarely just sat there working continuously. I don't actually think there's that many people that do that in today's world. You have to make room for the things that are important. You have to make sure that you're there and available at the key moments, right? So if my 4-year-old daughter runs through because she's had a first day at school and is really excited about telling me it, I'm not going to shut the door and say I need to prepare for this call. Let's have that conversation in 2 minutes. Oh, that sounds great, amazing. Because that's the kind of thing that, you kind of look back probably when you're in bed and you're thinking, oh, we should handle that differently. So you just have to, I think you just got to remind yourself of those, what's really important, and make time for the things that are important and be disciplined with that.
I love it. Thanks for sharing. Outside of work, is there something that people don't know about you?
Well, they don't know where all my tattoos are.
I was trying to convince it. Come on, show us.
Honestly, it's going to be a different type of movie if that happens.
Maybe I should talk to your wife first.
Outside of work, anything that you...
Like a secret, something that people would know or that you haven't spoken about on stage or online yet.
Oh God, lots of secrets. I don't know whether I would share all of them at the moment on the...
Wait, let me get the beer quickly. Let's have a Guinness or something.
No, I honestly, I think there's some things I wouldn't want to share. But yeah, I would literally just be clutching, genuinely clutching at straws. I think outside of work, I like to try and be as active as I can. I think a lot of people, myself included, when you're sort of doing a job from home now, you've kind of got the whole home office separation. It's very easy just to sit down. So I kind of like making sure I kind of outside a little bit, at least a decent walk once a day. I'm fortunate in where I live in the UK, there's a lot of outdoor space, lots of greenery. So I like kind of getting out and about. Try and do sport. I think, well, if I think back to before I went to uni, played cricket quite a bit. So we're in Australia, so I can say cricket because people know what that is. Whereas in the UK and other countries, they kind of look at you and go, okay, what school did you go to?
I think it was more my Indian friends who play cricket, no?
Is that right? Right, okay. Well, it's a big sport in Australia.
Yeah.
It's a big sport in Australia as well. I've just started getting my kids into it. So I'm now at a point where my 2 boys, 6 and 8, they're just starting cricket. So I'm trying to be supportive for them. But because I've kind of got back into it, I'm now thinking that I can still play in the same way I did when I was 16, 17. And I guess, the sort of slightly embarrassing secret there would be that normally playing sort of all through the weekend. Whereas now I play one game on a Sunday and it takes me about 3 days to recover my shoulder. I'm a bowler. So I'm walking around like this going, oh no.
Thanks for sharing this. We're slowly coming to an end. What is your, looking ahead, let's say 5 years?
Yeah.
What's your personal vision for your life and work? Because right now you have already achieved so much.
I think it's a big question. Personal ambition for me in the next 5 years would be at a point where I think we're all looking for financial independence. We're all looking for security, and both of those things together really is about flexibility. Now, I would love to be in a situation, whether that's 5 years, whether that's 10 years, where the business has grown, it's developed. There's an option for me to stay in the business, leave the business. I've got, can make some big decisions on my terms. And those big decisions might be relocation. They might be start my own business.
So maybe I see you in Australia soon then.
I think you will. I'm here every sort of two or 3 months already. But, I love the Australian way of life. I've kind of been here a few times. It's such a refreshing environment compared to the UK.
Yeah.
Can I say it? Different way of life altogether. So I could see myself in Australia. I think people are great. Climate's brilliant. I mean, we arrived, I think, 3 or 4 days ago, and I heard from the taxi driver on the way in that they just had some really bad weather, rained loads. But today it's 28 degrees, second week of spring. Now, I'm born in spring in the UK, and it snowed last time.
Oh, God.
So yeah, I think I know where I'd rather be.
I feel you. Yes. Okay, Lau, any last words to our audience before I'm going to let you go back to your work and your next meetings, because your time is very precious.
All our time's precious. I think my advice would just, when going back to some of the things I said earlier, everybody's clambering over technology at the moment, and technology is growing so quickly, and things that can be done instantly, shortcuts can be taken by AI. AI is really important. It's driving our business, but don't lose the individual identity element. Don't lose the human connection. And I think when you can connect so quickly on Teams, on Slack, on WhatsApp, the art of actually a conversation face to face, it's very easy to see that getting lost. And I think probably for the generation now, probably for the next 10, 20 years at least, that's still going to be really important. Particularly, if you think about people entering the workplace versus people who are likely to be hiring managers, that's still going to be an important skill. So that would be my kind of piece of advice: is don't forget how to talk to people. Don't forget how to be authentic. That's probably the key piece for me, I think.
Thank you so much for sharing. By the way, okay, that's really the last question. How was your vacation in Mallorca?
Lovely. I can highly recommend Puerto Plata.
Were only Germans there, also some locals?
Some locals as well. Yeah.
Good.
You definitely could know which ones the Germans were. The towels were out very, very early.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yes, that's awesome.
Although, to be fair, by the end of it, because I think we were out at 6:30 doing the same thing. So we're learning from the best.
You're learning from the best. I love it. Thank you so much for your time, guys. If you love today's session, sharing is caring. Subscribe, send it to your friends, and see you for the next episode. And please start following Sam Gilding.